Hi, welcome to Real Life Shhh with Chrissy. Today we're going to talk about being trigger happy and being in a triggered world and what we can do when we're in a triggering situation. On today's show, I have a special guest joining us from around the world in Australia. His name is Lewis Huckstep. Lewis is a fellow mindset, leadership coach, and podcast host. At the young age of 22, Lewis had already owned 3 gyms and was making 6 figures. He endured the struggles of stress and no sleep, so much so that he was finally inspired to find his purpose. His purpose is to heal and improve the consciousness of mankind, and his mission is to empower 1 million people to heal and create a life that inspires them. Welcome, Lewis.
Thank you for having me. Beautiful.
Recording in progress.
Beautiful way of speaking. And it was a beautiful introduction and pleasure to be here. Looking forward to chatting.
Yes. Thank you so much for being here. So I'm going to just dive right in, if you don't mind. And on one of your recent reels on Instagram, you asked listeners to try to look at their triggered partners in a different light, to look and to listen to the emotional age that they're acting at that time and to respond to them accordingly. For example, if they're acting like a 5-year-old, indeed respond to them as if you were talking to a 5-year-old child with kindness, love, and of course, healthy boundaries. While I 100% agree that when someone is triggered, their nervous system does take them into a different place and a different time. And I thank you for pointing that out. Also, though, it's a very hard task to complete, which you also point out, especially if you're also triggered. How do you suggest finding a good balance if one person in the relationship finds himself caretaking for the triggered one all the time, but doesn't find the same compassion in return when they're triggered?
Beautiful. Beautiful question. Look, for people that haven't heard me, I generally will zoom out and then zoom in a little bit just so you get a bit of context on what we're talking about. So zooming out quickly, whenever you're triggered, it's revealing something you haven't worked through, whether it's a trauma, a limiting belief, an egocentric version of yourself that doesn't want to be wrong and it's being challenged. So that's why I say your triggers are your gifts, because they reveal where there's resistance or where there's a wound where you can actually do some healing. So that's the first thing to be aware of. So whenever you are triggered, it's nothing external, it's all internal. Whatever someone does is their stuff, how you react and respond is your stuff. So if you're blaming anyone, especially your partner, for how you feel and how you react, you're giving your power away. Someone could say anything, the most horrible, condescending, nasty things to someone. And if there was no wounds in that area or nothing there was no resistance there and there was no truth to it, then you would have no reaction. So there's words only hurt you to the level you believe them yourself. That's from Peter Crone. And that's the first part of that. So then the second part is, okay, well, what happens when you get triggered? In a relationship, you would be triggered more than anywhere else. Why? Because they see more sides to you. Because like we've just met each other on this camera for about sort of 5-10 minutes. We're only going to see a certain side of each other, right? We're not going to see each other when we're sick, when we haven't had enough sleep, when the washing machine breaks, when we're having some financial pressure, and you see all those different iterations of yourself. So you do get your buttons pushed more in a relationship just because they're around you more than anyone else, depending, well, for majority of relationships anyways. But to then zoom in on your question. So when you do get triggered, you regress back to the person you were when that event happened. So if you're 5 years old and your dad, your mom, your siblings made you feel like you weren't enough, you weren't successful enough, smart enough, etc., whatever the enough wasn't, that was the pain you went through, and that can be quite traumatic. And there's a great book behind me. It's called You're Not Broken by Dr. Sarah Woodhouse. And she talks about the formula for traumatic events, or what trauma is. And it's just the perceived, and keyword is perceived, threat with high levels of powerlessness to defend yourself and overwhelm. So again, something that's traumatic to a 5-year-old is different to a 25-year-old. So when you get triggered, you're going to regress back to that 5-year-old self. Now, that is the beautiful opportunity, because in that opportunity, that's when you can heal. A lot of healing is done through being seen, heard, loved for who you are in that moment. Because when you were 5 years old, when you weren't enough, you weren't being loved back then. So that's why you will do most growth inside your intimate relationship. But there's a caveat to this. There's a balance to this, because this is my belief anyways, and this is what I sort of recommend with my content and with my clients and myself. Look, people can't be held accountable to things they're not conscious of. So if you're not conscious of what we're talking about, you're doing the best of what you have, and everyone's doing the best of what they have. So this is what I believe. Once you become aware of what I'm talking about, that when you're triggered, it's your stuff, it's not your partner. They're just revealing what's already inside of you. And then that's given you the opportunity to heal through it. If you then choose to not do the work on whatever's been brought to the surface, then you're choosing to hold on to this limitation. And therefore, you're choosing for that limitation to affect the relationship ongoing. But again, you need that consciousness first, right? Short example, I triggered my partner, my beautiful fiance, Georgia. She was making me dinner. She was making me some eggs for a burger, and the burger, it was meant to be a fried egg. I came up and it looked like scrambled eggs. And the egg, I'm like, babe, what's going on with this egg? And she got very triggered because I had revealed that her stepdad, when she was younger, she was never enough. She always effed everything up. I don't know if I can swear on this, but she effed everything up. She was never enough. She was a failure. He always made her feel like she wasn't enough who she was as a woman for anything, for the cooking or homework or anything. And the egg, and what I had said, like, what have you done to this egg, brought that to the surface.
Lewis, thank you so much. Again, you can find all the information to connect with Lewis right here on the show notes on this platform that you're listening to. I love that the divine has brought Lewis and I together on this day to talk about some real struggles that all of us indeed endure, probably throughout our daily lives in some way or another. I do believe that this is how you plant seeds of hope for ourselves, our personal relationships, and the collective. Thank you, listeners, for the simple act of tuning in and listening with an open heart and open mind. By doing so, you are spreading seeds of hope, love, and transformation. And so it is. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to share and follow all of these episodes. That way you'll be updated as soon as a new episode drops. And don't forget to check out my websites, OurDivineTribe.com and reallifeshhwithChrissy.com.